Portugal, it's not cheap. What am I doing wrong? Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. I am Luiza, and if you are new here, this channel is all about helping you make the move to Portugal, fulfilling your dream of relocating to Portugal. This is how a message on a Facebook group sounded like from a very nice lady who moved from the UK to Portugal, not in a very touristy area, and she said that after she made all the inquiries and all her homework and accounted for the very large expenses like buying a house up front, buying a car up front, paying all the huge bills like insurance, she still thinks that Portugal it's not that cheap, and even she is spending a lot money in Portugal than in UK. And I had to make a video on this subject. I mean, I wanted to make a video right in that moment when I saw that discussion on the Facebook group, because for several reasons. Because this is a channel about Portugal, but also it's a channel that wants to bring in front of you more controversial opinions about life and also about Portugal, about everything that we discuss here. And the first reason why I wanted to make a video was because I feel the same way. I'm not coming from UK or US. I'm not coming from a wealthy country. I'm coming from a country that I don't know if it's poorer than Portugal. I don't think it's poorer, has areas. But I don't know, it's a poor country also, Romania. So our cost of living in Romania, it's actually more cheap to live in Romania than to live in Portugal. So when I got to Portugal, after I did all my homework, of course that I had to come up with extra money to live in Portugal, but it was expected for me because I'm not coming from a, I don't know, rich country. But if you are coming from the UK or the US, you are really expecting that your cost of living to come down. And in fact, this is not so. This is a misconception, and I wanted to approach that in one of my videos. The second reason why I wanted to make this video, and I think it's important to talk about it, is because nobody talks about it. We see on the internet a lot of good information about Portugal, a lot of mainstream media who talks about how beautiful it is to live in Portugal, how wonderful is the standard of living, but without really saying how much. I mean, there are some figures. Some people say that it's okay to live on 1,000 euros a month, 2 persons. Another says that 150,000 euros. I don't know, there are some numbers out there, but everybody says that it depends on your style of living, and nobody really says that Portugal it's not cheap anymore. Maybe it was 10 years ago, but not anymore. And there are a lot of good people there, like me, and like this wonderful lady who left this message on Facebook, who really, we do our homework. We really come to Portugal. We really stay in Portugal a few months. We really investigate things. But the truth is that a month or two in Portugal, it's not gonna account, it's not gonna give you a general idea about how it is to really live in Portugal. Only when you really live in Portugal, you have a very good understanding about what it's gonna cost you to live in Portugal. And it's a fact that mainstream media just promotes the good side of Portugal and not so much not the bad side, but not so good things. And they don't really say that Portugal is a poor country. And like I said, we do our homework and we read a lot of articles, we watch a lot of videos, but those videos and those articles are only about the wonderful things of Portugal. Nobody really talks about the real life here in Portugal. We make life-changing decisions based on what we read in the glossy magazines and based on the Instagram pictures of wonderful beaches and wonderful and picturesque towns, but we don't really know how it is to live in that town, in that wonderful picturesque town, with a house with no heat, and where you pay a lot of money for electricity, or where you have to pay a lot of money because you need a car to get to a supermarket, where you can buy some things more cheap than the local supermarkets or the local butchers. And we came to Portugal with this idea that it's a very cheap country and our money is gonna stretch a long way. And if someone dares to say anything bad about Portugal, anything, you are crucified online, because nobody wants to hear it. This is the reality. The reality is that nobody wants to hear that either they made a mistake moving to Portugal or they are not gonna make it in Portugal. Nobody wants to hear that. Everyone wants the pictures with the beaches and the wonderful lifestyle, and they don't want to hear about the truth. The truth, which is mixed. That life, no matter where you live on this earth, it's a little bit of both. It's not like you move to Portugal and your life is gonna transform overnight and you are not going to have any more trouble with money or otherwise if you just move to Portugal. And this is what people want to believe, and you are crucified if you say otherwise. Even here on my channel, when I said that some things in a video, that some things are expensive, or I talked about some unpleasant things in Algarve, people just left some nasty comments. So there are some nasty comments and some little bit of hate if you dare to say something about Portugal. And this is why I'm making this video, because I want to say not ugly things about Portugal, but the reality of Portugal. And the reality is that Portugal is not some miraculous heaven where you can live without having any money. And especially if you want to preserve a certain standard of life, and I'm not talking about being rich, I'm talking about do you want to have heat in the winter, do you want to have some clothes and some food that it's not gonna put you on the ground in 10 years, I mean not processed food, do you want to eat something of quality, you will have to have a certain amount of money, like in any country on this earth. So what are people saying on these subjects? Because this subject received no more than 500 comments, is a very popular and controversial subject. What did they think that this lady did wrong? I was very curious about the opinions. Please take into consideration that these comments come from the expats, not from the Portugal people. So expats told other expats what they are doing wrong and how can they, reduce their cost of living in Portugal. Of course, there are also some Portuguese in the comments, but mostly they are expats who have these ideas. So this was very interesting because a lot of comments were negative. A lot of comments, there are a lot of very good comments, supportive comments. Even I left a comment saying this to this wonderful lady that she is not doing anything wrong and that this is the cost of living in Portugal and she has to make some adjustments, and some things can be adjusted, but some things cost money, and this is the way it is. But some comments were really not that great. I mean, and they were also expats critiquing expats. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so what are the people saying? Someone in the discussion said, it is our responsibility to ensure that we can afford it. I am 100% right with this approach. Of course, it's our responsibility to make sure that we can afford to live in a certain place, and not only in the moment that we make the move, but in any moment of our lives, because circumstances change. If you move right now in Portugal, nobody is going to guarantee you what the social climate and political climate and financial climate is going to be in 10 years. I mean, Portugal is not a life guarantee that you are going to have a wonderful and cost-free life. This goes without any discussion. But the problem is misinformation. It's where you get your information, because we read a lot. Like I said, we do our homework, but if we only read about the good stuff and what people say about Portugal, that it's all wonderful and good, then we are misinformed and we make life-altering decisions based on misinformation. And this is where the problem comes out. Not that the people don't read or don't inform themselves, it's just that there is not a complete information out there. A lot of comments were about you come to Portugal and you don't understand that you have to live like a local, you want your cake and eat it too. This is true and not true. Okay, it is true that when you come to Portugal, you have to find a way to integrate both culture in your routine, the culture of the place you are moving into, but also you have to integrate their lifestyle. I mean, if the lifestyle is that they are buying things from local markets, you should at least try it. With this part, I am totally in agreement. But the locals fail to take into consideration that us expats, we lived 30, 40, 50 years in a certain way. We are used to eat a certain kind of meals which have a certain kind of taste. And I'm going to give you some examples from my own experience. When I came to Portugal, I was used to eat a lot of salads, and those salads contained tomatoes and cucumbers. And when I came to Portugal, of course, I went to the supermarket, and also I went to farmers market in Lule, and I asked and bought some cucumbers. Guess what? The cucumbers that are sold in Portugal are not even remotely resembling the cucumbers that we are eating in Romania, in Greece. I couldn't eat it. Not even that I don't like the taste, but they have a rough edge, a rough peeling, and I have some problems with my teeth, and I just cannot eat it, both from my medical condition and because I don't like the taste. So we are trying to adjust to the Portuguese way of life, but if you are trying to adjust too quickly and incorporate in your life some things that you don't like, really your quality of life is better than before or it's worse than before. Another example is that in my country, the electricity, the gas and everything that goes into heating a house, we have a subvention from the state, and we pay very little for warming our home and having hot showers. So really we have hot showers, we had hot water at any time. So when I came to Portugal and I saw how much I'm paying just by letting the boiler to work constantly 24 hours a day, I had to adjust to that. And I'm telling you that it is very hard after 40 years of just not thinking about the hour when you want to take a shower to adjust to that. And there are a lot of times when I came home from exploring a beautiful coastal town, and I came home to my apartment and I couldn't take a shower. Why? Because the boiler was closed, and I had to wait 1 hour to have remotely hot water to take a shower. So this is a big adjustment, because if you are Portuguese and I don't know, Greece, the people in Greece live like this. If you lived like this all your life, of course you are adjusted to it, but for someone who didn't, it's a big adjustment. And if you are taking into consideration everything has to change, it's just not possible to live like a local in at least a few months, if not years, because your quality of life decreases very much if you are making all these adjustments in one sweep. A lot of people took to discuss the exchange rate between euro and the pound, and this is true. For a lot of years, the pound was stronger than euro, and it made sense to keep your savings in pounds. And when this balance changed, a lot of people lost a lot of money. But my piece of advice, or what you can do from now on if you are in the position to make savings and not really affected by this, is all your savings to be in the currency of the country you are planning to buy. Because if those people were making some savings in euros because they knew that they wanted to live in Portugal and the currency is euro, they wouldn't be so affected. But of course they would have lost by the difference in pounds and euros when the pound was stronger. For example, I earned the money in lei. My currency is lei, Romanian lei, and all my expenses were transformed month by month in euro. But of course I did that because euro is much stronger than my local currency. I don't know what people from UK could have done it, and it in fact affected their savings with 20%, maybe more, I don't know. And of course, if they were affected and they already bought in Portugal and now their pension or their income from UK doesn't go a long way like it used to be when the pound was stronger. What I like that in the comments I found a lot of people agreeing with the fact that Portugal is not cheap anymore, and this is another reason why I want to make this video, because you know what, when a lot of people come out and say things that they are controversial or I don't know, meet with hate on the internet, if somebody sees this opinion, like a lot of people saw that opinion on that Facebook group, a lot of people who had the same opinion but they didn't want to speak out, they spoke out and they said, I agree that the prices have shot up in the last 10 years. Sardines were €1 a kilo and now they are 12 euros a kilo. Oh my God, I didn't know that sardines were €1 a kilo. Of course that everyone in Portugal ate sardines because they were so cheap. And I came to Portugal for the first time in 2018 and I ordered some sardines and it didn't look cheap to me. The portion was like €9 or €8. So it wasn't cheap. Someone else says, everything is more expensive in Portugal except wine and council tax. And everybody seems to be in agreement that council tax, if you compare council tax in Portugal with council tax in UK, in Portugal it's several times cheaper, and only that saves on a year a lot of money. But guess what? In my country, council tax is cheaper, way cheaper than Portugal, so it really depends from where you are moving in. And about wine, I heard a lot about wines, Portuguese wines. I even tasted some Portuguese wines. I have a video about Christmas in Val do Lobo where we also had wine tasting. And I really liked those wines. Some of them were Portuguese, some of them were from other countries. All in all, I love the Portuguese wines, but I don't really drink wine. I drink sparkling wine. I don't really like if it's not a little bit fizzy. You know me, I drink sparkling water and sparkling wine and I'm going to die from it, I know. Another thing that was a really misinformation for me personally is that I saw a lot of people saying you can live in Portugal with 300 to 500 pounds, euro a month, and this is not doable. I mean, really, this is not true. If you read more closely or if you inquire those people how they manage, and we are not talking about people who are paying rent here, yes, no, people owning house, people owning land, people owning property, yes, 300 to 500 euros a month. And if you really dig deeper and ask those people how they are living with 300 euros, 500 euros a month, two persons, because usually they are couples, you usually find out something like, oh, we have a garden, we grow our own food, we have chickens, we exchange products with some other neighbors. I mean, we give them eggs, they give us vegetables, something like that. It's nothing wrong, and it's a beautiful way of life to grow your own food and to grow your own animals. Is very sustainable, very good for the environment, very good if you have kids to raise them in such an environment. But for a person who lived her whole life in the city, and a lot of persons came from the city, and not all the people can adjust or want to adjust from a life where you order all your food, you're not even cooking your food. You're ordering all your food, or the food comes from supermarkets, everything. It's very approachable, and you don't have to do anything, just to make a phone call and this food comes to you, to growing your own vegetables. And I know what I'm talking about because I live in the city and my mother lives near the city, near the capital, in a house, and she grows some of her vegetables. And she doesn't grow some of the vegetables because she doesn't have the money to buy them, but for her it's a nice way to pass the time. It's therapeutic. This is what I've heard. But it's a lot of work. It's not easy to grow something. Of course, that if I read that the cost of living in Portugal is 500 euros a month without having the continuation of this phrase, the other side of how these people live, growing their own food, living in the middle of nowhere in a house where you have this land and you grow your food, I am tempted to disrupt my whole life to live in Lisbon with 500 euros a month, because I don't have the whole information. And this is how a lot of people moved to Portugal, and now they are disappointed because the cost of living is much higher. Another point those people on the group made is that it's important in which area in Portugal you are living, and of course if you are living in a tourist area you are going to find it impossible to live on a small budget, and if you are living in central or in the north of Portugal and in a remote place, in a very little town, you are going to find that your money goes a long way. This is true, but also not true, and this is what I want you to take from this video, to understand the context in which people gives you some information and to verify that information if it really applies to you. Why am I saying it is true? Of course that the cost of living in Algarve on a golf resort, it's much higher than if you are living 20 kilometers down the road in, central Portugal, but not even central, just past the highway, 20 kilometers, and of course in Estoril, and of course you are living more cheaply. This is true. But what I found out actually living in Algarve is that it really matters where you shop. So in the same area, you go to a shop, let's say Lidl, let's say Continente, let's say, PINGO, DOCE, let's say whatever supermarket you want to shop, and you buy something with a price, and you go 2 kilometers down the road in the same area, the same town, and it's way more cheaper. For example, I shop in my PINGO DOCE. It were some pills for the washing machine, for the dishes, and they were 20 euros. The package was 20 euros. And in other magazine, they had a reduction in price for the exactly same product, and it was 10 euros. I mean, it wasn't slightly reduced, it was half the price. And 10 euros goes a long way. You can eat in a day with 10 euros. Maybe not in a day, but a meal, lunch. It adds up. So it is true that you can find cheap things and reduction in price, and you constantly have to chase the yellow ticket, but it's a chase. You don't walk into a supermarket, buy everything that you want, and it's cheap. You have to constantly make an effort to find cheap things, and what is cheap today, it's not cheap tomorrow. So like in my example with mineral water, with fizzy water, in some days they have reductions in price and it's half the price, and in some weeks and days you have to just buy it full price, the same product. And we sometimes spend gas to go to several supermarkets in order to buy this water or the other products that are significantly reduced in price, and that reduction also covers the cost of the gas spent to make all that. But it's a hassle. I mean, it's not easy to live cheap in Portugal. It's always a hassle. And if you are coming to a life where you just bought everything because everything was expensive and everywhere you go it's the same price, and it wouldn't make sense for in your previous life to just go chasing these objects, now you are going to find it hard to adjust to the mentality that if something it's not cheap today, you just have to wait until tomorrow. You just cannot eat that today because it's full price. You have to eat something else that it's reduced. And us in Romania, we come from communism, and we had 10 or 15 years where everything was hard, and we are used to think like that. But even us who lived like that after 30 years of democracy, it's hard for us to return to a mentality where you have to eat what is on reduction, what is on sale today. It's not something, I don't know, for some people they could argue, myself included, that this is not a better life. And what can we learn of all these discussions, of all these opinions, of all these misconceptions about Portugal? That it comes down to what it means for you to live a good life. For you, a good life means that you can enter in any restaurant, in any supermarket, at any time of day or night, in any moment of your life, and buy whatever you want. Or it's more about the place you are living, the stress-free life, the air quality, the quality of the products that are more, more organic, the fact that you live more in nature. What does for you mean a better quality of life? Because everybody says that any cost of life is offset in Portugal, but they're really an incredible quality of life. But if for you quality of life doesn't mean what Portugal has to offer, and it means only that you have to live cheaply within your budget, you might be very disappointed in Portugal. You cannot just move to Portugal to save money. There are other metrics in life than economic ones. You have to move to Portugal for the landscape, for the culture, for the people, for the breathable air, for the crime-free environment, for the inclusion. You can be anyone, you are going to be accepted in Portugal. Nobody cares about your business. If you behave and respect people, people respect you. You have to come to Portugal for the lack of stress, and this is one of my main reasons why I came to Portugal, because it prolongs your life with at least 5 to 10 years. You have to come to Portugal for the ocean, for the weather, of course, for the fact that you live more outside than you would live in another country who doesn't have such a wonderful climate. You have to come to Portugal for the mountains, for the castles, for the vineyards, for the oranges, and for the customs. You know, the customs that are preserved here and cherished, they are doing things here like they used to 100 years ago, all in all for a more simpler way of life. But if you cannot adjust to this simplicity, and this is a constant hassle for you, and you are used to live your life with some comfort, then you have two options. You struggle to make an adjustment like I do. I'm not going to renounce of my dreams, because for me, more importantly than live cheap is to live close to those other things I mentioned before. But it's a struggle for me to adjust to the taste of the vegetables, to the fact that I can't afford in Portugal to take a shower whenever I want, to the fact that I have to wait a long time for some things to happen, like the bureaucracy in Portugal. So I am acknowledging the fact that I have to accept this process, and it's not going to be easy, but I want to make this. But you can be in the position that you don't want to make this. You just want to go back to your country, to your routine, and that routine was more acceptable for you. And the sooner you realize that you need to do that, the sooner you are going to live a better life for you. So it's no shame that you made a mistake. If you made a mistake, just go back. You know, don't let people judge you. Just go back to your life, and it's your responsibility to live your life in a place where you feel comfortable. And just because everybody says that this place is Portugal, it doesn't have to be for you. So don't be ashamed to take a step back and analyze your life, like I have taken a step back when I was in Portugal this summer, and I analyzed my life and I really asked myself if I made the right choice. And the answer was yes, in spite of the showers and the vegetables and the food that is very pricey for what I am used to eat, I made the right choice. I still think I made the right choice. You have to constantly assess your life, not only at the beginning, but year by year, and something might change on the way that it's not your fault and it's not Portugal's fault. Like you see with this thing that happened all over the world. Now Portugal is one of the safest places in Europe to live. It is one of the safest places because the density of the population is not so big in Portugal. And now you would like to live in a remote place with no neighbors and no supermarkets, and just to be away from this danger that presented itself and comes with living in a big city. This is my take on Portugal. This is my take on this subject. The conversation, of course, remains open, and feel free to put in the comments all your opinions about this subject, because we have to discuss this and we have to paint a better picture for the people who want to move in Portugal, so they better know what to expect. And this is kind of like my mission, to give you the updates on the ground here in Portugal and to give you, I don't know, the true facts. And just because somebody gives you the true facts, it doesn't mean that, I don't know, I like less Portugal. I just think that people should be informed, because otherwise you are going to disrupt your whole life, move to Portugal, and maybe not put a message on a Facebook group like this lady did, but you are going to think about it and you are going to discuss with your family this, and you are going to feel the effects of a decision that was made on a false basis. Don't forget to subscribe, please, because you are helping me so much. Maybe share it with your friends, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.